is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
5 things to watch here on KC Sports Network, getting you ready for Chiefs versus Bengals. Obviously, not in the normal locale I am typically. I am in a central Ohio garage right now. And Craig Stout, I have no idea where you're located right now. Where are you exactly?
I am standing outside in Wichita, Kansas right now. So we are really bringing this home on a holiday week. We're putting in a real Chiefs offense kind of effort for this one right here with our setups. But we're here for you. We're here to break down this game, here to give you a couple of things leading into 5 things this week.
We're doing absolutely everything we can here to get you that sweet, sweet content here on KCSN. You're going to get 2 things to watch from us. You're going to get 1 thing to watch from Tucker D. Franklin and Nick Leckie, and then you're going to get 2 from the Only Weird Games fellows as well. So that's kind of the rundown this week. Obviously, leading up and in between holidays, it's always tricky. This is my first chance to talk about this Chiefs team since the absolutely embarrassing performance against the Las Vegas Raiders on Christmas Day. I was driving during that game, Craig. It was,
you made the right choice, my friend. Hey, the defense played well, but you're used to that at this point in this season.
Yeah, this is the defensive team now.
But
yeah, I know I've heard that you guys did some really good things on the Monday show. So
that's kind. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, this has been good feedback about it. I've seen some really positive things. I haven't really got to, I haven't got to listen back to it yet, but I'm sure I will.
We weren't used to that. We figured that was going to be the case, but yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. When I'm unplugged, I'm unplugged. But I did jump on for like the first couple minutes to hear you guys talk about a compliment sandwich or open face compliment sandwich.
Open face compliment sandwich. We're making a shirt out of that, as well as Maddie said in the game preview that has aired by the time everybody's listening to this. Hitting the tit, referring to the pass that Patrick Mahomes threw to Noah Gray. So we're making shirts out of both of those. We feel like those are really good sellers.
Yeah, I'm glad I knew. Anyways, so first thing to watch wasn't going to be a thing until Jamar Chase decided to open his mouth. He of 0 rings, Jamar Chase, just talking about how inconsequential the Chiefs defense is. They don't have any dudes. Well, I would like for the Chiefs to hopefully introduce L'Jarius Sneed to Jamar Chase. It remains to be seen if L'Jarius Sneed will indeed play in this game. But after Jamar Chase's comments, you have to think that L'Jarius is going to want to get back for this game. It could be quite the fun matchup.
Yeah, if there was any sort of on defense for L'Jarius Sneed, not that he's that kind of player. He shows up every week. It's not like he's, kind of on the fence about performing at any point in time. Hearing Jamar Chase say, they ain't got anybody. They ain't got a Jalen Ramsey over there. Buddy, I don't know if you've watched L'Jarius Sneed this year, Jamar, but he's been better than Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey's having a great year. L'Jarius Sneed is a first-team All-Pro. I said it earlier this week. I will double down on it this week, in this one here. I don't understand what anybody gains by opening their mouth. Especially against this Chiefs defense, especially against one of the best corners in the league. It feels like one of those is like, oh, the Chiefs are down. Let's kick them. But let's try and kick them a little bit now because we can get our shots in and maybe we'll be able to back it up a little bit more, feel more confident in it. Jamar Chase is a confident individual, but man, this is the wrong bear to poke for me. I imagine, ask Justin Jefferson about how that went, yapping a little bit at L'Jarius Sneed. He punched him in the mouth, quite literally punched him in the mouth, got a flag for it, and then Justin Jefferson did nothing all game. Devontae Adams did nothing essentially in either game after the first quarter of the first one. So this is not a guy you want to trifle with, Jamar Chase. So those comments they caught me off guard a little bit this week.
All talk and no rings in Cincinnati. I would like to see L'Jarius Sneed set a tone. I will say this is the perfect this Cincy game coming and the Bengals starting to talk is actually kind of perfect for me. It's helping me wipe, the slate clean from the week prior. It's helping me cleanse the palate because the Bengals hates back, even though Jake Browning's the quarterback for this team. There's some juice.
He's been fine. He's been fine. And maybe they got some system quarterbacks over there. Who knows?
Yeah, some are calling Joe Burrow assistant quarterback. I'm just saying, it might be playing itself out a little bit. They might have paid the wrong quarterback in Cincinnati. Anyway, I just, I want to see what L'Jarius Sneed set the tone. If and we all hope he plays at this point. We're not entirely sure if he's going to get out there, and if he is going to be playing, I think we all hope that he will. But I would love to see him or somebody just set the tone with Ja'Marr Chase. The Chiefs have done an absolutely incredible job of shutting down wide receiver ones, and I think Devontae Adams got him for like a quarter of a game once. But for the large part, they've just done a fantastic job of just slowing these top shelf wide receivers down. And I don't, Ja'Marr Chase coming off of an injury, I don't expect anything different. I think the Chiefs should be able to kind of reduce, his impact on the game. I think one thing you got to take into consideration, though, beyond just a L'Jarius Sneed versus Ja'Marr Chase kind of situation, is there is, there's another wide receiver one in Cincinnati.
There is.
Bengals, and they're going to have to account for both of those guys this week.
Yeah, that's the difficult part about some of this. Like, if L'Jarius Sneed's been on an island for a lot of these wide receiver ones and is held up just fine, but if he's not 100%, if he's not, a full go guy and he's still out there toughing it out against Ja'Marr Chase, that's one of those situations that you can't just dedicate safety help over the top and give him the kind of help that maybe you have with other guys or that you have in the past. And that's because T. Higgins has been kind of Jake Browning's go-to guy. Ja'Marr Chase has as well. Don't get me wrong. He's still throwing the ball up there, but it's one of those where Jake Browning knows what he's got lined up out there. Go throw the ball up and have a guy go up and win. We've talked about these wide receivers for the past 3 years. They're not 50-50 balls. They are 70-20 balls. And it's in favor of the Cincinnati Bengals. That's right. The other 10% is, Jake Browning or Joe Burrow just flat missing the throw. So, no, it's one of those.
What was going on there?
No. I had a bit. I was setting it up. It's just one of those where, like, you look at these wide receivers and, we kind of diminish some of the quarterback play for that, but that's a viable option. When you've got studs on the outside, go throw it up and go have a guy go win. And when you've got a guy like Trip McDuffie, who's not the best at the catch point, maybe you're going to see situations where he and T. Higgins are going to be slugging it out, and that's not one that I love, but I do love L'Jarius Sneed versus Ja'Marr Chase. I just feel like this is one the Chiefs want to beat Ja'Marr Chase up. They want to beat this offense up. That this defense has seen their fair share of what this offense can do to them, and yes, this offense is not the same as it has been in previous years, and this defense is significantly better than it has been in previous years. So I look at this team, I look at this secondary, and I think, you know what? I actually like the chances of trying to slow down, try and stop a Ja'Marr Chase with a L'Jarius Sneed this week.
There's a decent chance that this is the last time that we see the Chiefs starters this regular season, too. There's plenty of scenarios that could play out where the Chiefs are locked into the 3 seed after this week. And so it would be a great opportunity to get the taste out of the mouth, from last week, get right, stomp on the Cincinnati Bengals, end their season. But I think the flip side is there's really not a ton of opportunity to see this offense kind of, get some things figured out, right? We're running out of time. I mean, time's up pretty much, I don't think there's any overhauls. There's not any magic button that they're going to be able to press. There's not any personnel changes that are really going to make too much of an impact. Maybe one. And that
I got one.
It might revolve around McCole Hardman getting involved in this offense. That's the one I think, we're talking to, we're switching to topic number 2, to thing number 2. And that's just finding some success down the field offensively. This team has become too stale, too predictable, and they don't have the reliability underneath to really continue to move the chains, consistently in the short to intermediate, especially considering the fact that there's no vertical threat for this team right now. It's not being honored. No one's respecting it. And no one really believes that the Chiefs have the horses to do it. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, not really, got an opportunity against the Green Bay Packers and failed miserably. is having a really rough season, just a complete lack of production. And, partially, I think the reason the Chiefs brought McCole Hardman back in a trade with the New York Jets was maybe to try to utilize him on the, as a vertical stretch player at some point in this season. Obviously, the injury had derailed him. There's a chance we'll see him here. This week, we could see him involved. And something's got to give down the field. The Chiefs have to show sooner rather than later that they can win down the field. And they've got to find some success in the vertical passing game to have some people honor it. Because if they don't, it's going to be tough sledding for the things that Andy Reid really wants to do underneath in the short to intermediate, in the screen game. They've got to loosen that lid up a little bit down the field, Craig.
Yeah, they absolutely do. When this team was even sniffing around McCole Hardman earlier this year, we talked about it on the lab. We talked about how the way that safeties were playing this team were flat-footed reads. They did not fear MVS. They did not fear Justin Watson down the field in 2023. And I think that that's really bizarre, kind of funny a little bit, because they did fear MVS a little bit down the field in 2022. You saw a lot more split safety looks. When McCole Hardman was on the field, you definitely saw those split safety looks. But even later in the season, it took a long time for defenses to say, oh, maybe we don't need to cover all the way down the field. Maybe we don't need to bail right off the snap with our safeties. Maybe we can just read this out a little bit and react and drive on everything underneath. And as this season's gone along, that's all we've seen. Like, especially the later we get into the season, the more flat-footed, the more downhill every safety that the Chiefs are playing are playing the Chiefs offense. There's nothing to risk by standing there flat-footed and driving on the Travis Kelce route. There has been so much discussion about why isn't Travis Kelce as effective? Why isn't this happening? Why isn't, the offense able to flow through him anymore? Why is everything so difficult? Why can't they get open looks? It's because of that. There's nothing to tell any defense out there, hey, I need to make sure that I don't get beat for 20 on this play, because it is so rare that the Chiefs have somebody open down the field and have time to throw it at this point. And now it's just defenses don't respect it. They don't honor it, and they don't have to. Just hit one. Just throw one or two that are semi-successful. Get a DPI. Get some down the field. It doesn't even have to be a crazy explosive play that goes for 70 yards to McCole Hardman. Hit a 25-yarder. And you're going to have defensive coordinators sitting there going, oh, crap. Well, that was the missing ingredient. Now, all of a sudden, safeties can't drive downhill. Travis Kelce has a little more space to operate. Like, it all opens everything up. And it is literally the missing piece right now. We've talked so much about the wide receivers, how they can't function, how they can't do other stuff. They have dumbed down the offense so much and gone so basic with it that it is easy for defenses to read and react to it. Make them think twice about that read and react. Make them think twice about getting beat for an explosive play. We did not see the Raiders fear it at all game long. Big Lou Anarumo's defense for the Cincinnati Bengals has been fearsome in the past. It's not fearsome this year. They're giving up the most yards per play in the NFL. Go hit them over the top. Force those poor safeties to cover a little bit further down the field. Hit them over the top. Make some defensive coordinators in the playoffs have to think twice about playing as downhill as they are right now with every defense the Chiefs are seeing.
I think it's kind of, I think teams feared it more on reputation earlier in the season. I think that's partially why you've seen that slow fall from grace for this offense, right? Is even early in the year, maybe they didn't have the horses to do it, but no one really knew or wanted to be the team to find out.
Right.
And so, and I remember sitting there for the Bears game and watching, Travis Kelce have no one there, and just having getting some opportunities underneath. And they've got to find a way to take that lid off. And, I think there's been some stretches where the Chiefs have tried. They've tried to maybe push the ball down the field a couple games here or there. They've just failed. That's the biggest concern. Someone's got to step up in the vertical passing game. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has to come down with that one post he's going to get. McCole got to run under one here sooner rather than later. They've got to, not only do they have to prove it, in the regular season. They're going to have to do it in the playoffs if they want to have a chance to win, when the games matter the most. They've got to find a way to get things going down the field. And it should open up a lot of things for everybody else. And, I think especially looking at an offense where, I haven't really got to give too many of my takes, from last week's game, right? But, Travis Kelce is what he is. They've got to help him out with the vertical stretch like we just got to talk about. They've got to, loosen some things up for him. I love Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice isn't ready to be that wide receiver one. I don't think, we hope.
He's got some seasoning that he still needs. Yeah.
It's not a knock on him. It's a big, tall order, especially with everything that's going on for this offense.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think he's got enough time to really develop, the kind of thing that they need for him to just become that super uber reliable guy all over the field. He's still going to make his plays. So that's why this vertical stretch is so important, because we're running out of guys to talk about too. We're running out of guys that, can really see the field right now. I think Marquez Valdez-Scantling led the Chiefs in snaps, on the offensive side, or from the receiver position. And I think Justin Watson wasn't too far behind him either.
Yeah.
So, I think we kind of know, who might be, might be involved. Maybe a Kadarius Toney can get in there and get some, get some snaps and do something. The Chiefs might be out of some options, but I think things can get a lot easier if they can get the ball down the field. Now we're going to get this podcast to Tucker D. Franklin and Nick Leckney talking about the trenches.
Outside the trenches with you here, 2/3 of us hanging out with you. Nick Leckey, myself, Tucker Franklin here, talking about the trenches heading into the Chiefs and Bengals matchup. Look, let's start with the Chiefs having the football, Nick, because Chiefs offensive line not coming off of probably their greatest performance that they've had this season. CBS caught the cameras, Patrick Mahomes laying into the guys on the side. Patrick Mahomes comes to the podium, says they did respond a little bit better after it, but man, not the greatest performance for the Chiefs against the Raiders.
Yeah, it's definitely a regression year, and it looks like the O-line got exposed. You had to bring in Allegretti. And, the way we talked about it, I think Trey Smith's big time hurt. But I like Allegretti in there. He's a veteran, knows what to do. He's 100% healthy. But here's the thing. This offense line has been struggling with everybody. And you bring in Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, two high motor defensive ends, and it's going to be trouble. It's going to be a lot of trouble for, Donovan Smith. Will he be playing? Will he not be? Jawan Taylor has had so many penalties, not giving up stuff. And then Trey Smith or Allegretti in the middle, right guard. Man, I just wish the Chiefs, if the Chiefs could run the ball 20 times with whoever running back is in there, whether it be, Edwards-Helaire or Pacheco, if one running back gets 20 carries, Chiefs win this. But if they don't feed that running back and Mahomes sits back at 20 yards, doesn't make plays, forget about anything. Forget about it. I'm not going to watch it.
It's going to be tough. As you mentioned, I think a lot of the times when we've seen the Chiefs this year, we've seen some poor performances from, Jawan Taylor, Donovan Smith. Wanya Morris didn't play all that good. Probably the first time that he hadn't played good, you could look at it and say, that was a bad performance. Guess what, Rook? There's some tape out on you now. They figured something out about you. You got 3 weeks of game film out there. They're going to figure something out. He's getting beat on the inside a whole lot there. But this wasn't just
sacrilegious, which is sacrilegious.
For sure. But this wasn't just one bad performance from an offensive lineman. This was everybody playing bad on the offensive line, which is not something that we've seen too many times, but it's starting to see something that we're seeing more than normal. Trey Smith was listed on the injury report with a knee/ankle. He was leg whipped a couple times in that game, which doesn't feel very good, and that's why Nick Allegretti had to come in, because he was getting beat up, man. And Trey Smith was coming off of a really bad game that he had against the Patriots where he was a turnstile. But you mentioned guys with really high motors that this Bengals team has, and they're going up against an offensive line that kind of struggles with guys with high motors because they kind of have to block for a long time because the wide receivers aren't getting open and Patrick Mahomes is dropping really far back. And there's a lot that goes into all of this, but they're going to go up against guys like you mentioned, Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, Cam Sample's the guy that's going to be getting after it. Joseph Osai as well. This is not a great matchup for the Chiefs offensive line. This isn't the bounce back performance when you're looking at like other defensive lines to face. Like, okay, we can get back on track. We can get our communication down against this defensive line. Not one you do, and especially against a defense like Lou Anarumo, who is the defense coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. Kind of had the Chiefs' number the past couple of years when it comes to stopping the Chiefs' offense. Not sure how much he has to do, really. I think the Chiefs will kind of take care of a lot of that for him. But it's going to be a really challenging test for him.
Yeah, it will be difficult. It'll be really difficult. You got some big body edge guys at 6'4" and 6'5". Yeah, it's trouble. So don't bet on a lot of Chiefs' performance this year because Mahomes will be scrambling for his life back there as usual.
Let's flip to when the Bengals have the football. We get a little bit of a return of revenge game. Orlando Brown Jr. playing left tackle. Former Kansas City Chiefs left tackle playing now for the Cincinnati Bengals. He, as well hasn't had that great of a year. But they've got some good guys along that side. Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, Jonah Williams on that right side. They've got some pretty good guys, but this isn't it hasn't still been the best year for them where they thought that they were really going to revamp their offensive line.
Yeah, well, the thing with Burrow is sometimes he can make some plays with his arm, make some plays with legs, but guess what? He ain't going to be there. You got Jake Browning from, I don't even know where the hell he's from.
Washington.
UW back in the day, right? And UW, you don't know. You get no credit from me. You should have got Florida State over Florida State. And I just think, honestly, I think the defense is sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think Karlaftis can feast, especially when you go against guys who used to run up again in practice. And there's always this weird kryptonite. This is an insider thing. There's a weird kryptonite to guys who might do well in the league, but you're like, oh, we played against this schmuck in practice every day. We know what he's about. And I think that's what's going to happen to Orlando Brown Jr. They're like, okay, we're going to do all our practice shit we steal on you again. And I honestly think, the whole crew, all of them is going to have a great day. I think so. I think this will be, if the Chiefs can score like double digits, they'll win. But if they don't, they'll lose. But this would be a good day to take the under on this score for sure.
Ooh, I like that. You mentioned George Karlaftis, a guy with a high motor. He's going to be all over the place. What I really want to see is, we've seen this a lot from Chris Jones this year, of him picking his matchups, right? Him saying like, I'm going to pick my matchup and I know I can win. I want to see him go on the edge against Orlando Brown Jr. because he can say, I know I can win this matchup. I want to see that happen. And look, I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen, because the way that this defense has been playing, they've been playing great. They're allowing like 17 points per game against playoff teams. The Bengals are surging right now. They did lose last week, but they're a team that's getting hot. They've got some playoff chances. They've got something to play for in this game. It's not like they're going to come out and play flat and be flat. So I want to see this defense, the defensive line specifically, get home. That's been a really big thing that, Nick, I'm pretty sure we've talked about this literally all year, is that the Chiefs defensive line does a really good job of generating pressure, but not converting those pressures into sacks, into those tangible playmaking plays, those big time plays, like they'll really swing the momentum. I want to see that happen. I want to see them get after Jake Browning to kind of swing some momentum, because look, they're going to have to either create takeaways or put the offense in advantageous positions for the Chiefs to win this game. They have to do it. They've got to get turnovers. They've got to get after the quarterback, and that starts, I think, with the defensive line.
They're going to have to do what the Raiders did to the Chiefs, and defense is going to have to score more points than the offense.
Yeah,
and get the shit done if you want to win. Because guess what? You're not relying on this year's version of the Chiefs to score a lot of points. Plain and simple.
It's a great note to end on, Nick. That's going to do it for us with Outside the Trenches. Catch us Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. We're live. Always catch us after the fact. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we'll go ahead and send it back for more 5 Things.
Thanks to Tuck and Nick Lecky. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
5 things to watch here on KC Sports Network. Again, getting you ready for Chiefs, Bengals. I'm in enemy territory here in Ohio right now, a little bit north of Cincinnati, but close enough. I've seen a few Bengals things here or there. I'm not particularly enjoying it. But now it's time to enjoy the boys from Only Weird Games, Joshua Briscoe, Seth Kaiser. 2 things for us. What you got?
You got 2 parts of Only Weird Games here to tell you 2 things to keep an eye on when the Chiefs take on the Bengals on New Year's Eve. Joshua Briscoe and Seth Kaiser with you here. Seth, I'll let you take the offensive side here today as you just wrote about the things that went wrong up on the Substack, mnchiefsfan.substack.com, the Chief of the North newsletter. You took a look at Patrick Mahomes and charted his film and what went wrong. And as we talked about on this week's edition of Weird Games, what went wrong was a lot of stuff at different times. So what's the key here?
It's always one thing that's, I guess, nice about a game where basically everything that can go wrong does go wrong is you can really pick, like, wow, what needs to improve? I don't know. Close your eyes and point in a general direction on the offense, and that needs to be better. Like we talked about on Only Weird Games, the wide receivers didn't play a good game, but they didn't play nearly as bad a game as they played in the past. And so I've kind of taken the counter perspective of like, this was a little more the O-line and Mahomes with some wide receiver awful moments sprinkled in too. But for me, it's all about, I'm going to sound like, I really am going to sound like a coach giving a presser, but it really is about them actually being more consistent everywhere. Because the problem that they're having right now is they're making mistakes. Mahomes will make a mistake, or the O-line will make a mistake, or the receivers will make a mistake, or maybe the tight ends will make a mistake, or the play calling will be bad, whatever. And because they're each doing it with some consistency, it's like every snap has something go wrong. And if you just, and that's where it becomes so frustrating. It's like if every group just tightened it up like 10%, you would suddenly see a much more functional offense. And so it's really about, there are good snaps by the O-line, plenty of them. There's good snaps by the receivers, maybe less of them, but because you get to do zone looks and stuff, you don't have to be great. You just got to run to the right spot and turn, which apparently is borderline impossible for some people. But I'm sorry, that's not fair. See, one breath I'm defending them, the next breath I'm just chucking them under the bus.
I mean, that's kind of the season though, right?
Yeah, I'm a double-minded man. I don't know what to tell you. And then you also, like, Mahomes has to trust both of those things to work and not try to just shift into hyper-creative mode that one would call like almost like a Texas Tech type mode that he had against the Raiders. He's like, I'm just going to create. That you can't just create against NFL defenses, even if you're Patrick Mahomes. What makes him great is that he's able to create 5 to 10 plays a game. Most quarterbacks can maybe do it like once or twice. And so for me, I'm looking for, I don't know, is synergy the right word? I don't think synergy is the right word. Sure, I like a little synergy. Yeah. It's got to actually come together at the same time. At least 2 of the 3. And not just don't blow it up. That really is just the one thing. Everyone blow up 3 fewer plays this game. 3 fewer. And the offense would look significantly better. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in terms of just some consistency and some complementary football in a different sense than how people traditionally use it.
And it makes a lot of sense because there's an exponential improvement that comes with that, because all it takes is for one of those groups to blow up the play for everybody. And now all of a sudden it doesn't matter that Mahomes has done something magical because no one's open at all, or that the offensive line has given him the pocket because he's dropping his eyes and he's nervous about it now. To circle back over that one more time, I wonder if in that way the Raiders game was finally the game where the whole like Mahomes isn't trusting what's going on around him. I wonder if that was really truly the first game that they lost because of that. Or that was at least the game where it most came home to roost, because you did see Mahomes drifting in the pocket. You did see him dropping his eyes. You did see him not taking some shots that were there downfield. And to me, that feels kind of like the culmination of a lot of the things we've talked about all showing up at the same time. Is that fair?
I do think it's fair. It's besides the Broncos loss, where he was obviously not remotely himself. Yeah. And let's face it, being sick is the worst. I've got kind of a theory on this since we've got a little time. That I've explained to Jazz.
You know the term man sick. You hear it a lot. What I've pointed out to Jazz.
Renee says she's that sometimes, but I don't think I've heard it out of that context.
Well, yeah, the term I always hear is, so are you man sick? You know, it's like, well, hang on. But what's really true, and this is just science, that the manlier you are, the tougher germs have to be to make you sick.
Yeah.
And so by the time you show symptoms, they're devastatingly bad because it's such a strong germ, which is why on the outside, it might appear that perhaps, for example, I, the pinnacle of masculinity, handle being sick like, to quote someone who will remain nameless, like a baby, or a whiner, or, other words that hurt my heart. But really what it is those germs are so strong. And so I would assume Patrick Mahomes, who some might say is as manly as I am, some might say it.
Some might say it's close. I don't want to.
Some might say it. So other than that game, this Raiders game was the only other game where I would say, maybe with the Jets, although they won, so if you're just taking losses, where his play was a legitimate contributing factor to the loss. Not just he didn't play well enough to pull them up, because that's happened a few times, but really to where he was not only not able to drag the offense to respectability, but he was actively part of the problem. And that, I don't expect that to continue. And that's at least a piece of good news with him. It's almost like things culminating in that force them, like you got to stop saying, hey, stay the course. We're going to figure this out. It has to be, okay, this crap isn't getting figured out. We got to figure something else out. And one of the things in the Raiders game that I think they figured out was we got to start going for it. Like early in the game, they were like, guys, it's like 4th and 3. We got to go for it. And I was like, thank you. Just let's do more of that. Because then they also call the good plays usually too. So that's a lot. That's probably more than 5 things just on my end alone. But let's call this thing 20 things. Why not?
Yeah, I kind of have multiple things on the defensive side that are at least about what we've seen recently from them. Look, the defensive side of the football has been excellent this year. It's been the better side of the ball for the Chiefs this year. It hasn't been close. And last week we saw them turn Aiden O'Connell into a pumpkin starting in the second quarter. The man did not complete a pass from that point on, and that sounds fake, but he
could have been a pumpkin.
And he could have literally been a pumpkin. Yeah, exactly right. So what I'm curious about is a little bit of a dual thing here about a player that I want to see on the field more this week, and the reason why. I'm curious to see what the Chiefs defense does against a team that wants to throw the football again. Steve Spagnuolo said on Thursday that sometimes he watches the film and he's got to get clarification. Is that Joe Burrow or is that Jake Browning? And while I think there's perhaps some truth to that for some aesthetic reasons and, the way that Browning is playing the game and also the way that Burrow plays, I get it. I understand the similarities. But I would love to see them make Jake Browning look like a backup. And again, how are you going to play against a team that actually wants to throw the football and has thrown it well at times? Last week's game is not a perfect example for the Bengals because they ran the ball on 15 carries, not by Jake Browning, 11 for Joe Mixon. They threw the ball 42 times. That split is in part because they were down 24-0 at halftime. That's what the game was at. But Joe Mixon is just a good weapon as a pass catcher as he is as a running back, especially at this point in his career, I would argue. And the Bengals are going to want to continue playing Bengals football and getting the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, especially, assuming that Chase is out there. With that in mind, Drew Tranquill was 4th in linebacker snaps against the Raiders by a significant margin. Drew Tranquill played 17 defensive snaps against the Raiders. Now, again, it's a team that at that point was running the ball. The nail in the coffin plays, as we talked about on Tuesday's Weird Games, were running plays that were minus plays for Leo Chanel and maybe Willie Gay and Nick Bolton, all in that one play. I think all 3 of them might have gotten a little red ding on my list, but we can go back and look at it closer, whatever. I don't want to see that happen again. I want to see Drew Tranquill. Ideally, I'd like Drew Tranquill to be this team's highest snapping linebacker. I understand I'm just going to accept that that's not going to happen, but he should certainly be second, even if Nick Bolton continues to be the full-time green dot Mike linebacker, all of those things. I will be very curious to see how they handle that in this version where, again, it's another backup quarterback, but Aiden O'Connell turned into a pumpkin, and Bailey Zappi, even though Travis Kelce didn't know his first name, the Chiefs' defense has been excellent. Browning and the Bengals supporting cast is the best test they're going to have in this back quarter of the season before Easton Stick and company come to town for, I guess they go to LA, right? For a game that may not matter, may literally not matter, depending on how this weekend pans out. But I will be curious to see if there's anything that resembles, oh man, this defense did it again against real pass catchers and a reasonable backup. And alternatively, what if it goes poorly? At that point, I think the season starts feeling even more fragile than it does right now. You have any thoughts? Man. I don't know, anything there that was so brilliant?
You know what? That was really good. That was really good coverage.
I was just freewheeling it. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember what I said. I blacked out. Who did I talk about?
Sometimes it just comes to you, but the Drew Tranquil take, pulling that out, for one, part of me died when you said that. So it took me a couple of minutes to come back. So I'm not sure what you were talking about in the interim, but it really is. They've had this stretch of backup quarterbacks, and they have, other than one game, really, and that's against LaFleur's Packers. They came in with a great game plan, executed well. Also, the offense kept giving the ball back.
Yep.
That's complementary football. It works both ways. They've been really good at exposing, including in O'Connell, who played pretty well against them for the first half last time, and then the second half was pretty ugly. But this time it was, I really want to see something that I think made the difference against the Raiders is the very first drive, Chris Jones immediately was oh, they can't block him. Yep. And that everything kind of altered from there. And you could see them okay, well, we need to throw out 3/4 of our playbook today because I think he tried to eat him. And and so I'm curious, Jones obviously has had success against the Bengals in the past. We'll see how it goes. But that linebacker snap count is something that I'm 1,000,000% keeping my eye on because Tranquil played so well in Bolton's absence. And maybe he's still kind of coming back from his concussion. I don't know. But that's just not acceptable. He's too good. He's too versatile.
There you go. You got something from each side of the ball from 2/3 of us here on Only Weird Games.
Thanks again to our friends over at Only Weird Games. It's been great having them here on KC Sports Network this year. That's been 5 Saves. Getting you ready for this big game, a huge game. Trying to get to double digits, trying to win the AFC West are the Kansas City Chiefs. We really appreciate you. Thank you all for listening, supporting KC Sports Network in 2023. It's been an unbelievable year. We will talk to you after this game is over on the KCSN post-game show. Make sure you are checking out 810 Sports Radio's pregame coverage as they're going to get you ready for Chiefs Bengals as well. I'm Kent Swanson. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. We'll catch you later.